The UK plays a major role in the oil industry around the world. In this video, we're gonna talk about location, government, import and export, production, oil companies in the UK, and renewable energy.
Let's start talking about the geographical location of the United Kingdom. It is located in Western Europe. It consists of multiple countries including Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales. UK is mostly lowland terrain, but in the north, like Scotland, it has mountainous areas. Even though UK extracts its oil mostly in northern sea, it is said to have found shale in these lowland terrains.
Now let's talk about the United Kingdom's government. To start with, the United Kingdom is considered to be one of the oldest governments in the world because it has not been invaded or conquered in the past 1,000 years. Historically, the UK has been a monarchy. However, a civil war from 1642 until 1652 changed the form of government into a constitutional monarchy. In a monarchy, the king or queen has absolute power. However, in a constitutional monarchy, the king or queen is only for traditional and ceremonial purposes. The true political power lies in the hands of the Prime Minister and the Parliament. This political power is greatly affected by oil. The United Kingdom's political policies try to make the world more stable. That is because the oil industry is an interconnected international industry, and any conflict in the world will negatively affect it. For example, the UK played a major role in the stabilization of Libya in the spring of 2011. Also, the United Kingdom assisted the French forces in northern Mali in their war against terrorists. To add to that, the United Kingdom leads the European naval fleet in the Gulf of Aden to fight piracy.
The UK used to be a major exporter of oil during the time of finding reserves in the North Sea. Currently, UK ranks 20th in the world supply of oil. Now it relies heavily on imports of oil to support its energy usage. It imports mostly from the European Union to save costs. Now it is importing from Norway. The North Sea contains high reserves of oil, but in the coming years there was a technical and natural causes in the oil rig that brought production down from 1.9 million barrels per day to 1 million barrels per day. The UK has many oil fields, and the Buzzard oil field produces the most oil, around 140,000 barrels per day.
Moving on to the oil industry in the UK. The UK is the top oil producer in the entire European Union. Within the oil industry in the UK, there are three types of companies. Operating companies, who are in charge of refinery and transportation of oil, known as the downstream process. The second type is drilling companies, who are hired by these operating companies to drill and extract the oil from the oil fields, or the upstream process. And finally, service companies, which may include anything from cement companies to even rig drivers, or anything to help with the oil production process. Along with the oil industry in the UK, there is OPITO, the Offshore Petroleum Industry Training Organization. Its main goals are to set safety guidelines for oil production in the UK and to increase the oil industry's popularity by hiring more young, bright students for the future. The UK oil industry is also famous for having some of the top oil companies, BP and Shell. BP was known for being the first company to drill oil in the North Sea, opening a large door in the UK. This helped make it the top oil producer in the EU, the European Union. Shell, on the on the other hand, was the first company to use an electronic computer in the Netherlands. Today, Shell produces 2% of the world's oil.
And now we're going to talk about renewable energy. Specifically, we're going to talk about wind turbines, wave energy, and tidal energy. It's important to know how wind turbines work. First, the wind turns the blades, and then the blades turn a shaft inside a nacelle or the box at the top of the turbine. The shaft goes into a gearbox which increases the rotation speed. The generator converts the rotational energy. The transformer converts the electricity from around 700 volts to the right voltage for distribution. Then the national grid transmits the power around the country. And that's how wind turbines work. After knowing how it works, we also need to know the impact of wind turbines to UK energy sector. Renewables accounted for approximately 11% of total generation in 2011, and preliminary data published by the DECC show that the share increased to more than 12% in 2012. Much of this was driven by wind generation, which rose more than 31% year over year, mainly due to more favorable wind speeds. Wind turbines are relatively cheap if you compare it with other energy sources, for example, solar. For wave energy, a wave device uses the motion of the waves to capture an energy and drive a generator. The stronger the wind and the longer distance the waves travel, the more energy they carry. Created by changing gravitational pull of the moon and sun, tides are predictable and never stop. Tidal stream resources are at their best when there is a good tidal range and the speed of the current is amplified by the funneling effect of the local coastline and seabed. Tidal devices work well in narrow straits and inlets, around headlands, and in channels between islands. Created by changing gravitational pull of the moon and sun, tides are predictable and never stop. Tidal stream resources are at their best when there is a good tidal range and the speed of the current is amplified by the funneling effect of the local coastline and seabed. Tidal devices work well in narrow straits and inlets, around headlands, and in channels between islands.
To recap, the UK's foreign policy pushes for a more stable world because any conflict can affect the oil industry. Also, the UK changed from a net exporter to a net importer of oil. The UK's oil industry has developed over time due to Opito's contribution. And finally, the UK has a promising future with their renewable energy.